So the big picture for this lesson is solving equations using radicals. So what does that mean? Let's say you have an equation like this. X squared equals 25. Well, what you can do is take the square root of both sides, because some number times itself makes 25, and that's the solution for x. So the square root of x squared, that is simply x. And what we do here for a square root is we need to look at both the positive and negative square root of 25, and I'll explain that in just a minute. So 5 times 5 makes 25, so x can either be positive 5 or negative 5. So why does that work? Well, if you have an equation x squared equals 25, you know 5 times 5 makes 25. What about negative 5 times negative 5? That also makes positive 25. So this equation actually has two solutions. You don't want to miss one. Let's look at a cube root. Well, to solve this, you take the cube root of both sides. So the cube root of x cubed is simply x, which equals the cube root of 125. And 125 is 5 times 5 times 5. So x is simply 5. So let's look at this. Why don't you do plus or minus here? Well, what is negative 5 times negative 5 times negative 5? Well, that equals, let's see, negative 5 times negative 5 is 25, and 25 times negative 5 is negative 125, which is not positive 125. So that's why you don't have a positive or negative root when you're solving cube roots. Now, you're not always going to get an integer answer. So let's say you have x squared equals 50. You take the square root of both sides, and x equals positive or negative square root of 50. Now, square root of 50 can be simplified a little bit, but that is an exact answer right there. So I'm not going to get into the simplifying right now, but I do have a question for you. Between what two numbers is the positive square root 50, let's say? Well, let's look at some perfect squares. 7 squared equals 49. 8 squared equals 64. So how does 50 fit in here, the square root of 50? Well, it's much closer to 7 than it is to 8, but those are the two numbers that it's between. And you do that just by listing some perfect squares, or in the case of cube roots, perfect cubes. So the square root of 50 is between 7 and 8. So that's the big picture for this lesson.